helping people with cost segregation, paying less taxes. That's really how I see it. That's literally my vantage point is how can I help more people know about this and really save more money, grow their own personal wealth, and help more people through that.
Whatever the mind can conceive and believe, the mind can achieve.
Welcome to the Dream Big and Think Different podcast, where we inspire, impact, and empower.
Progress is impossible if you always do things the way you have always done things.
It's time to dream big. Here's your host, Dr. Sachin Maskey.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Dream Big and Think Different podcast, where our mission is to inspire, impact, and empowers millions of people. I'm your host, Dr. Sachin Maskey, and today I have a special guest, another dreamer, which everyone knows him about, cost segregation expert, Yonah Weiss, all the way from Israel, is right now. And I'm honored and lucky to have you in our podcast to learn more about what he's been doing, how he's impacting the world. Welcome, Yonah. Thank you for coming to our podcast.
Good morning, and thank you so much for having me on the show. It's great to be here. Appreciate the introduction. Always try to be a dreamer, every day. So we'd love the title of the podcast too.
Thank you. And how's everything down there?
Everything's great. Yeah, thank God. No complaints. Just trying to live the best life.
Good to see you again. So I'm going to start with some quick intro about Yonah, and we go directly to this topic, which is cost seg, and go from there. So just to introduce Yonah, I luckily found him through the LinkedIn, and I was looking there. He was in like more than 400 podcasts. So he's considered as a cost segregation king, as I said before, and he is helping a lot of people, especially property owners, to have tax savings. For about 7 years, I believe, he's working in this company called Madison SPECS. So Madison SPECS is a new US-based company. For over the past 15 years, the company has done more than 16,000 cost segregation study covering all 50 states and resulting over $3 billion of tax savings. 3 billion. That's a lot of billions. And then Yonah have appeared more than 40 podcasts. I consider himself as a podcast king also. And he has also his own podcast, which is called Weiss Advice podcast. He's also a real estate investor and he's a people connector. Again, he's a cost seg king. Welcome again. I hope I've covered everything in your intro.
Covered a lot there. Yeah, hard to kind of wrap everything up there, but it's true. We, I am a real estate investor. I am known as the cost seg king. Over 400 podcasts. It's crazy. Just think about it. Doing 3. This is the second of 3 today. So it's fun it's probably the most important piece of business that has really helped me grow over the past several years is being a guest on other podcasts, which really ultimately led me to start my own podcast, Weiss Advice. And I love it. And it's just a great opportunity to meet, speak with, and learn from the most successful people that I know, which is it's incredible because the more people you meet, the more, opportunity you have.
Thank you. I'm really happy today then. And I'm very, very honored to have you again in my podcast. And, so my podcast is Dream Big and Think Different. I would like to start with my first question that I always ask to my guest. So it's going to be more, I guess, a question that I want to hear from everyone. So first question, who is Yonah Weiss and why he is in this world?
Wow. Really existential questions here to start off the day. I believe that I'm, just a part of this big world. Everyone has a mission in the world. And we're brought here for a purpose. And I think we need to really understand that. I'm a very religious Jewish person, have a family, 6 kids, beautiful wife, and live in Israel, as you mentioned before. And it's really been just an amazing journey of life to learn from such incredible people that I've been blessed to be in contact with. And really learn about myself. And, who that is kind of hard to sum up in a few seconds here. But I think, just for everyone that can relate to this, we all look at ourselves as like a child of God, someone we're creation, we're brought to this world for a specific purpose, and to live our life to do the right thing and having those, foundations of morals and principles, which hopefully lead to not just making a better life for yourself and your family, but for the world at large. So, I mean, that's really what I believe I'm here for. And, the fact that I've grown this huge, social media platform, podcasting platform is, I think, to kind of spread that message to, to be a good person and be the best person you can be and help other people.
Thank you. Impressive, answer, and really like that. The reason I want to ask that to my guest is I also believe that, who you really are is really important in our life. And there are two things I believe, the day you're born and why you're born is very important. And I appreciate your giving me that answer. Next question, I guess, basically, let's talk about, so you're in Israel for, I don't know how many years. Can you tell me like how long you've been there for? And, and what is your childhood dream? I mean, when you're a child, I would like to know that.
Yeah, I haven't really thought about the childhood dream, for a very, very long time. But I've been living here for about a little over 20 years.
Wow.
Really. I started off, I came here first to take my junior year of college abroad, like a study abroad program. And I just fell in love with it and loved it so much that I went back for my last year to San Diego to finish up, and then came right back almost immediately. And that was, just finding a place, the community, and just a really amazing place with tons of history for myself and my family, my people. And that's probably why I love it the most. So to be honest, I don't recall what childhood dreams I had of, who I wanted to become or anything like that. But it's really interesting. One thing that I do remember is, you always ask, like, who do you want to be or what do you want to be when you grow up? And oftentimes, and going back to your first question, people define themselves based on their occupation. And one thing that I've learned, many years ago was that what you do from 5 o'clock until 9 o'clock in the morning, that defines you much more than what you do between 9 to 5. And, to me, when I first heard that, it really struck a chord with me that I don't want to go into some corporate world and I don't want to, be defined by a specific job. And even though people know me as the Cost King, right, that's what I do. And I talk about that all the time. Really, what it boils down to is how can I help people? And I do recall from a very young age, being a counselor, camp counselor, and doing those kind of things, a youth advisor, different youth groups, because I really wanted to give back. I wanted to help. I wanted to do whatever I can to educate and to help other people. And that's the core. And so helping people with cost segregation, paying less taxes, that's really how I see it. That's literally my vantage point is how can I help more people know about this and really save more money, grow their own personal wealth, and help more people through that.
Wow. I really love the answer that you just told us about how you define after not 9 to 5 to 5 to 9. That's a really good, I learned something today. So, but yeah, that's awesome. So I guess I wanted to know more about your childhood again. So you're born in the United States, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
And you went to Israel to go to, I guess, and that was around your college, you said, right?
Yeah, correct. Yes.
So, wow. So you've been there since then and you come to US. How often you come here?
So right now, well, for the work that I do, the company I work for is based in New Jersey. There's our main office there. So everything I'm doing is virtually, and all of the business I do is based in the United States, like everything. But I do travel back and forth, probably I would say about 5-6 times a year. I'll go for a week or two at a time. Yeah, so it's pretty often. I mean, I have a lot of family still back there, my parents. And so there's definitely reasons to go, but where I choose to live, and I think everyone has that choice. That people, when COVID started, people start to realize, wow, this work from home thing, or work wherever you want, or travel and work is actually a real thing. And so I was doing it before it was really cool. So I'm kind of ahead of the game. No,
it is definitely a cool thing, and the freedom, the freedom of your time, your location, and those is the beautiful part of our being entrepreneur. But I was just looking at today, learning more about your LinkedIn profile. I want to just talk about one thing I'm very interested to know more about it, which is about your teaching. And I think that's a big part of your life. I believe you're educating people. Tell me more about that. And it looks like you started doing this 2008, Director of Activities. I'm looking at the LinkedIn profile right now. And I want to know more about that, about your your experience of teaching. How and like why did you started that?
Yes, as I mentioned, from when I was even a kid, when I was young, even in high school, I was a teacher. I was a teacher's assistant or private tutor, and led youth groups and all kinds of things like that. Education has really been in my family and been something I've been passionate about for as long as I can remember. And so when I went to Israel, I studied for many years. There's what's called a traditional like yeshiva. It's a kind of postgraduate learning program.
Okay.
Where, in-depth study on a daily basis, in-depth study, which in more religious studies, obviously. And that to me really opened up a whole new world that I never, really focused on before. And so I ended up teaching in those institutions and those environments and actually started, a small kind of group, study group, if you will, like, about 10 or 12 kind of post-college people, just kind of education where we would get together and I would teach them. So I did many different things from all ages, really. But what I enjoyed most was actually teaching things that were more esoteric, more kind of metaphysics, if you will, and things that relate to not only how we interact with each other and with God, but how we can actually make the world a better place through our actions. And so there's a lot of in-depth study on that subject in Jewish philosophy. And so that's really was my area of specialty.
Wow. Yeah, impressive. That's definitely something, I'm very, interested in. I wanted to definitely, one of my life mission is to also give back by teaching people how to be financially free. And one of the things I got into was real estate, and by reading a book called Rich Dad and Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki.
Yeah.
So it's, it's a good thing to know that you have a passion to teach and help people. I'm also going through your LinkedIn profile again. I wanted to basically go down to real estate now, which is basically my question to you. You're a real estate investor and you started, I guess you joined before the real estate. I think you were in the Foxstone group as a loan originator. And then I think my question is, why real estate and when did you get started? And, what is your, where are you now in that, in the journey,
Absolutely. For sure. It was actually really incredible. For many years, about 15 years, I spent, studying and teaching, and that was my passion. But at a certain point, having a growing family, I needed to have some more income. And I really just reached out to some friends of mine and figured out, what can I do? I was not interested in going back to any more formal education, number one. Number two, I was trying to look for something that really didn't have a ceiling. And when I spoke to friends, real estate kept coming up in various things. And I ended up meeting this friend of mine, David, in the parking lot one day. And he mentioned that he'd been a mortgage broker for many years and was leaving the current firm he was working at to work for his uncle, who had a small boutique kind of private equity and a real estate firm. And that's the Foxstone Group. So I ended up working with him, kind of interning, basically. I mean, really was, it was just on commissions, but I was learning more than anything from him, who had been doing this for years. And he taught me basically everything that he knew about commercial real estate. So we did a lot of underwriting. We did a lot of originating. We did, just cold call, getting to know banks and getting to know all the terminology that was out there. And that really opened up worlds to me and opened up a network, which I found that was my kind of first introduction to, wow, here I am talking to these, extremely successful people who own, tons of real estate, and I can help them in a way by, finding them a better mortgage rate or finding them a way to refinance their properties to pull out more money so they can invest. And that was like a big novelty to me. Wow, you could pull out money, you can refinance. This cash out refi thing it was incredible to me. So that was really my first step into the real estate world.
Wow. That's amazing from the garage. Yeah, I mean, that's interesting to know that.
Yeah, I mean, one thing just leads to another also, it really, that's the amazing thing. When you're open to opportunities, one thing just leads to the next.
You're listening to the Dream Big and Think Different podcast with Dr. Sachin Maskey. Be sure to stop by SachinMaskeyMD.com to download a free copy of Dr. Maskey's book.
Sure, definitely. So I like that story. But now I think we should go directly into today's main topic, which you're expert, and I want to learn myself. I personally have not done any cost seg till now, but I know there's a lot of benefits. And I would like to hear from you and my listener to exactly what is cost seg, and then how we can explain that to like 5 or 6 years old kid. and how do you do it? We're going to go a little bit more detail, but let's start with what is cost seg.
Absolutely. So cost seg, as the cool kids call it, cost segregation is a really weird name that the IRS gave to a tax deduction called depreciation. And it's really an advanced form of depreciation, which allows you as a property owner, once you have owned a property besides your primary residence, the IRS allows you to take a tax deduction called depreciation based on the purchase price of that property. Meaning you can literally write off, besides for the land value, you can write off the whole value of that property over a 27.5-year or 39-year period, but depending if it's commercial or residential. And that's called depreciation. Now, not to be confused by the term, right? When we hear depreciation, we think negative, right? We think property's going down in value. Well, that's not actually what it means. It's just based on that principle. And so you're able to take this tax deduction based on you, the current owner, and that depreciation deduction starts over fresh every time the property transfers ownership. Okay, so that's called depreciation. Cost segregation, as I mentioned, is an advanced form of that. Is saying, let's break down the property into its different components and let's segregate that cost of the purchase price into different categories. Certain components actually depreciate on a faster schedule, meaning you can take the deductions of those components, the value of those components, at a faster rate, which gives you more cash flow from those bigger tax deductions in the earlier years of ownership. So kind of in a nutshell, cost segregation is a cash flow mechanism, based on this tax tool that allows you to take bigger tax deductions in the earlier years of ownership.
Sure. Yeah. So it sounds like it's definitely real estate. One of the advantages is we all know is a tax benefit. And one of the special vehicle to do this is cost seg. And now I want to go a little bit more detail about cost seg. So you said you're going to do this in primary resident, only in an investment property. And my question is,
right?
Is there any special investment property? It could be single family or multifamily, or any specific asset class.
It can be done on anything, any property whatsoever. So since it is based on the purchase price, meaning the tax deduction and the percentage of that purchase price will be the tax deduction, it really depends on that more than anything. So it can be done with a single family. I typically don't recommend it on like purchases like less than, let's say, $200,000, but anything above that really is beneficial. So, and certainly can be done on commercial properties, multifamily,
okay,
self-storage, office, industrial, retail, you name it, really anything.
Okay, good to know that. And when should we do this study? Meaning, when, what is the timeline? Should we do like first year, second year? Like, when do you exactly start this process?
It can be done at any point, really. It's a great tax tool and can be done at any point in time. Most people like to get it done in the first year of ownership, just to set up your taxes and set up your depreciation schedule in the correct way from the beginning. However, if you've owned a property and have just been doing this straight line investing for a year or 2 or 10, you can go back and retroactively, catch up whatever depreciation you missed that you could have taken. So that's something that can be done at any time.
Okay. And when is another question I have here is, what is the process involved? In order to do this, should we call you and say, hey, we're gonna do the cost seg, or what is the steps? And briefly, if you can mention that.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. Just give me a call and we'll help you out. No, the simple process is pretty straightforward. First thing we always like to do is run a free upfront feasibility analysis.
Okay.
Which allows you to see what the potential tax savings would be between doing it the regular straight line, what most accountants will do, versus doing it the cost segregation method. So that's the first step. And then we will do, if you engage with us, we'll tell you what the cost would be to do that, and then do an engineering site visit. So one of our cost segregation engineers will actually go to the property physically or virtually through the help of a technology, a video call, right? A FaceTime or something, that they could record everything that's inside and outside the property. We'll take that data from those pictures, record it, videos, and use other documents like appraisal, site survey, and then create this very detailed report breaking down the property into its components and showing the value of all those individual components. Like the structure depreciates on 39-year schedule. But inside, like the furniture and appliances and fixtures and window treatments and flooring, cabinets, all these things actually depreciate on a 5-year schedule. So we're going to break that down and show you what those tax deductions are going to be on that faster rate.
Okay. So that's after you decided to do a cost seg, right? If not, this is not free. I mean, this is actual doing a cost seg we're talking about.
That's correct. That's once we do the full cost seg.
All right. Sounds good. When I was curious, like, I don't know the answer to this question, but when not to do cost seg? Is there any like situation you should not do the cost seg?
Yeah, there are certain times when it doesn't make sense. So for example, like I said, firstly, if the property is not big enough, meaning it doesn't cost enough, if it's a smaller acquisition, it's really not going to make sense from a numbers perspective. Another great, time when it won't make sense is if you are planning on selling the property within a year or two, because when you sell a property, you're going to be faced with what's called depreciation recapture tax, which is a gain on the amount of the depreciation you took. So the time value of money of holding that property and getting those tax deductions, the longer you hold it for, the more time value of money, the more benefit you have from those deductions. So the shorter period of time, it's going to make much less sense. So that's another important point. The third thing I would say is when it doesn't make sense is if you're investing from a retirement account. And obviously you can invest through, self-directed IRA or 401k, et cetera, QRPs, they call them, qualified retirement plans. And if you do that, well, those are tax shelters and you're not going to be able to benefit from the depreciation. So doing a cost seg on a property like that just obviously doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for giving those advice. It really helps us to make sense when not to do now. So, but another questions I'm always trying to figure out between this, I heard this bonus depreciation and going out this year. And my question is, bonus depreciation and the cost seg is the same thing or is it a different thing? What exactly it is?
So bonus depreciation is once you've done a cost segregation study, you're able to have the option to take those accelerated tax deductions in the first year. And that's called bonus depreciation. So bonus is not something extra, even though that's what it sounds like, right? Similar to depreciation doesn't mean going down in value, right? These are all borrowed terms. But the bonus depreciation is once you've done a cost segregation, you have the option to take all those accelerated deductions in the first year. And that's called 100% bonus depreciation. So 2022 is the last year that's going to be relevant. Going forward, it's going to start phasing out by 20% a year. So 2023 is going to be 80% bonus depreciation, et cetera.
Okay. That's good to know, and definitely something we only have like 15 days remaining, I guess, for this year. It's amazing how time flies.
Well, yeah, to acquire a property, but as long as you get it done in the, before you file your taxes for 2022, you can still use the 100% bonus.
Oh, great. That's good. Yonah, so about because a lot of the listener who is listening to this podcast, what are doctors and passive investors, right? So how can they actually lower their income tax with this study, cost seg study?
So the cost segregation, the really amazing thing about real estate investing is that the depreciation can help to lower your real estate income tax liability. However, unless you're a real estate professional, the deductions are going to be limited to those real estate rental income tax liability. What I mean by that is rental property income is treated differently than W-2 income, or active income, as we call it. So passive income is rental income. The depreciation can only be used to lower or offset your rental income.
Okay.
Unless you're a real estate professional, or unless there's a certain provision with short-term rentals that if you self-manage them and it's less than 7-day average stay, then you can also use those deductions against your active income. However, if you are not a real estate professional, you or your spouse are not a real estate professional, you're just going to be benefiting from the depreciation to offset or lower your real estate rental income, which is a great thing in and of itself. If you passively invest, that means that if the owner or the general partners or the operators are doing a conservation study, likely you're going to be getting income, right, returns from that property, and during the life of ownership, you're not going to be paying any taxes on that investment.
Okay. So let's say I have, in terms of this similar question, because I am a passive investor in other other asset class like oil and gas or other real estate investment property, can that cost segregation study offset other passive income, or can we do that?
So other passive income, yes, or other passive gains. So if you have, if you sold a rental property, you have a passive gain, it's called a capital gain from the sale of real estate, then yes, you can use the cost segregation or the depreciation from other properties to offset that. So all of rental income or all of the investments in real estate are kind of in one bucket, and all of the depreciation you're going to get is also in that same bucket. So you can use it, from one property to the other or one investment to the other.
Oh, wow, that's beautiful. I didn't know that. So maybe, I guess we have to think about this cost seg for definitely it's a good thing to do and a huge tax benefit for sure. I think we covered a lot of things in cost seg, basic, high level. And again, I'm with the expert here. Is there anything we missed in terms of anything about cost seg you want to add?
Well, I would just say if you own a property, it's definitely worthwhile to look into.
Okay.
Obviously, if you are just a passive investor, it might behoove you to have, to think about you or your spouse going full-time into real estate to get that real estate professional status, which allows you to use these deductions against your active income. So that's something that you want to make sure you can, you can get, because the benefits from the tax savings might actually be more than the after-tax income you might have from your W-2.
Absolutely. That's absolutely true. What I realized in my career being a W-2 income, when I realized that I was paying a lot of the tax to, Uncle Sam, and that was one of the reasons I decided to go to my venture of real estate. And I think that's absolutely a good way to have further discussion with Yonah, the expert here, the listeners and viewers who was listening to this podcast. Now I'm going to switch the gear a little bit and want to talk about, since this podcast is more about dream big and think different, what is your dream now, Yonah?
My dream now is really to figure out ways to give back more. And so, a lot of people focus on how can I make more money. And I think a lot of people in their careers are kind of caught in that, whether it's in the hamster wheel of, working more so that I can make more money. My relationship with money has always been, how can I give more? Okay, so the more I make, that means the more I can give. And so I'm not really, changing my lifestyle in any way. I've been very frugally, very humbly, and try to, pass on those values to my children also. I kind of show them the value of money and what it can be used for, not in of itself. No point in saving it. Investing it, yes, so you can help grow that and help to, get more, to give more. And that's it. So that's my biggest dream right now is just, creating different ways that I can give more.
Absolutely true, and I like your dream, and I wish you good luck. And, me too is like, I think myself, I'm almost like 43 years old, and I have a beautiful wife like yourself, beautiful kids. I'm from Nepal originally. And I thought to myself, like, what I've done for others, and that's the reason I started this journey actually, to eventually give back and, and help people and make a difference. And hopefully the podcast I'm doing is also kind of the giving back, and I like your definitely the answer for that. Thank you for sharing. I noticed one thing I want to talk about a little bit about you. I think you're involved in charity organization here. You're the president, co-founder, and director. I want to know more about what you're doing on that, just to people know, what is your mission and the charity.
It's really been about giving back to people less fortunate or people that have gone through, struggles. Life happens to people. And unfortunately, people who don't have the financial wherewithal or understanding of how to grow wealth, they kind of get stuck. I've been there myself. And so I know what it's like to have, a negative, bank account and not know how to literally, credit cards maxed out and not know where to, who to turn to or where to buy bread, literally. And so I've been there and I know what it's like. And I know that situations happen to people. Death happens suddenly, health situations, crises happen. And fortunately, I guess I should reframe it. Money can often solve a lot of those problems, a lot of those, issues that people are dealing with that stress them out. And so if I can, that's why one of the reasons I founded that nonprofit many years ago was to, help people in my community that I knew that were going through these issues and going through, specific things that they needed help with. It just literally, there was nothing they could do to make ends meet because of sudden tragedies or sudden things happen to them in their lives. And so I think it's important that people who do have the means use those to help other people when these situations happen.
Amazing. Awesome. Yeah. Secret of happiness, as we all know, ultimately is serving others, and you are doing that. And I think we're towards the kind of end of our show today. I just want to ask you my last question, which is, where can people find you? And what is the one thing you want to share, or share your wisdom, I would say, to our listener?
Well, you can find me anywhere on all the social medias. Yonah Weiss. There's really only one of me, I believe, so I'm pretty easy to be found. But yeah, that's definitely the easiest way to find me. The one thing, a drop, I guess, of wisdom I will leave everyone with is never stop learning. There's so much out there to learn, especially when it comes to real estate. You don't know what you don't know. And the funny thing is, the more you learn, the more you realize how much more there is to learn. And so, and who there is to learn from. And so never be kind of, I guess, content with the amount of knowledge that you have. There's still so much more. And so continue that search and that thirst for knowledge.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Yonah, for your time today. I really appreciate what you have done and what you're doing. I really appreciate your time again. And thank you everyone for listening, learning more about Cost Seg. It was an honor to again have you on a podcast. If you're watching or if you're listening, please rate and review, and we're going to bring more dreamers in our podcast. Thank you everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of Dream Big and Think Different. We hope you enjoyed it. Please be sure to subscribe to our show so you don't miss any gold nuggets. We would appreciate it if you could rate and leave us a review on iTunes, Spotify, and other platforms. And be sure to stop by SachinMaskeyMD.com to download a free copy of Sachin's book. Until next time.